Well, welcome, fellow veterans. Once again, I'm coming back to you with a veteran interview. And one thing I know is that in the service, you're going to face challenges. And when you leave the service, you're going to have challenges you're going to face. So today I'm bringing on a service member that I know from the U.S. Army, the best branch. And if you feel differently, comment about that. Tell me what you think is better. Say I believe the Army was the best branch, and I always tell people there's only two services mentioned in the Constitution. That's the Army and the Navy, and everything else is subsidiary of our services. So, but today I have a treat for you. I have a doctor, Amin from the University of Chicago. Is that correct?
University of Illinois, Chicago. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to let her introduce herself. So please introduce yourself to the veterans, and then we're going to get started with our little informal interview.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, Quentin, first of all, for putting together a podcast that's in service of those folks that have given their service. And so kudos to you, big ups, and appreciate you for inviting me to share my story and to answer questions. I'm Dr. Aisha El Amin. You knew me as Sergeant Rahim back in the day. I am the Executive Associate Vice Provost for the University of Illinois, Chicago. It is a university in Chicago. It is the largest public research university in Chicago. I've been there both as a student to get my PhD in policy studies of urban education, and I've been there as a professional for about a dozen years. And so always happy to share my story, always looking forward to helping veterans out in any way that I can.
I appreciate that. So we're going to take you back before the service. Tell me about who you were before you decided to join the service.
So funny. So for all of you folks that didn't join the service because you all are big patriots, welcome, because that was me. It wasn't that I was like, oh, I gotta serve my country. I was a homeless teenager. I grew up in the city of Chicago, and I was running from homelessness and poverty, and running to something that was a big question mark. I literally was going to Blockbuster Video one day, and now I'm dating myself because some of you may not know what Blockbuster Video. I know my children don't know what Blockbuster Video is, but I was going in there to work, and I was just in a strip mall. And instead of going into work, I went into the Army recruitment office, and I said, "Give me the first thing smoking out of here." What I knew is that I needed a change. I needed a different kind of life. I had never left the city at that point. I never traveled across. I've never done any of those things, and I wanted something different. And I knew education was for me the key to that liberation. And so I joined the military as a military police officer. But I'm Southside Chicago born. I am a product of folks who loved me and had struggles with their own that were part of their parenting, that I appreciate and applaud for doing all that they could, and how they knew how to do it.
Got it. So basically, even though you're at the University of Chicago, Illinois branch as a provost, you still come from the street. So if somebody mess with you, you still throw hands a little bit.
Oh, you know how we get down. and I'm an expert on the 9mm, as a military officer. And
yeah.
So,
you know like and communicate.
Yeah. I know how to communicate well with my mouth, so I don't have to use all those other tools. But if I have to use them.
Understood. I like that. So I'll ask some questions about your enlistment, but you already said that when you joined, you came in as a military police. What kind of challenge was that for you coming through from where you came from, coming into the service as a military policeman?
Oh, so funny, true story. So as you all are quite familiar, if you're a veteran listening to this, military has its own language. There's these acronyms upon acronyms. It's the same in higher ed. But so when I told the recruiter I need the first thing smoking out of here, he basically took me to a place where I didn't know what this place was, but they were weighing me, and talking about what is your MOS. I was like, I don't know what that means. Give me whatever. Okay, you're gonna be a 95 Bravo. Okay, what is that? It's an MP. Okay, what is that? So I didn't know any of the language they were talking. I was like, does it get me out of here soon? Because I was gonna change my mind probably if they didn't hurry up. And so I get back in the car with the recruiter and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm ready. He's like, so what's your MOS? I said, y'all talk a language I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. And he says, oh, he looks at me, he said, you're the police. And I was like, oh man, I hate the
Postcode.
police, right? I'm Southside Chicago. Police are not our friends, right? And so I'm like, I done became the enemy. How did this happen? It ended up being just a, a great experience, but I went in there blind, and I'm a woman of faith, right? And so even through the trials and tribulations of my childhood, I held strong to knowing my creator, and knowing that my creator guides the path that I'm on. And so I was like, wherever they send me is where I'm supposed to go. And so that's kind of how I ended up being a military police officer. And it was a 5-year enlistment at that point. So I had a 5-year active duty stint in the service.
Understood. Understood. Well, where you're at currently, I kind of, if I think back and look back from when I first had the opportunity to basically meet you in passing, you were on a different base than I was. I was an absent. You were like I said, a military policeman out in but most time I saw you, you were basically focused on community service or education. I mean, I didn't see you doing crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? You were military, education and community service stuff. So is that for you, was that preparing you to stay in or to leave?
So at that point, I didn't know, right? I knew that the military for me was a pathway to get to a place that I wanted to be, that I had no other access to, right? And that was education, and that was seeing the world. And so I wanted to take full advantage of that. So I didn't know if I was going to stay or if I was going to leave, but I knew I was in there. I had to take care of business. And so while in the military, I came in as a private, E1. And everybody, of course, could tell me what to do. I got all the grunt work. I got the shifts I didn't want. I got all of that. And I'm like, man, how do you get rank around here? Like, what do you do? And part of what you do, as you know, is you can get some rank by going to school, and getting those points. And so what I found is that I thrived in structure. I enjoyed structure. That structure is not what I really had in the past. And so I started taking classes. University of Maryland, global campus is where I got my degree. So I made sergeant after 3 years. I became soldier of the year. I went before boards with my dress blues on and answered the questions, and did all of those things. I started enjoying school, where in my life I did not achieve in school because of all of the things that are going on. As we know now, as I know as an educator, if you hungry, you can't focus on food. If you don't have a place to live and you're housing insecure, you can't focus on the academics. And so what I didn't realize is that the alignment of those things were it was a hindrance for me to get to where I wanted to be. And so when those things were taken away, I was able to thrive. So I kept it moving. I got a 4-year degree within 4 years in the military. I was going to school full time and working full time, and just uberly focused on, hey, I need to get all that I can out of this opportunity.
No, understood. So what I was gonna ask some other questions, but any question I ask you based off that will almost be a recruiting video. And since we're veterans, I'm not looking at recruiting, you know what I'm saying? But I do like the fact that you said that you were able to thrive in a controlled environment, and to be able to deal with, a lot of even ambiguity and things that was going on in the service because of your position as coming as an E1, being a military police, and then growing through the ranks. So because of that background, that training, and able to go through the education process to get promoted, how has that helped you now in the position you're in currently?
So it's really funny because I'm in like the opposite field of the military. So higher ed in one sense is everybody has a voice, you listen to people, everybody's voice is valued. and I wouldn't say it's not in the military, but in the military, if the sergeant major say this is the way it is, that's the way it is. It's not that's gonna be it. You're gonna, you execute. I think in higher ed, it is a lot of pontification to get to that space, right? And talking about, so even as a leader, I think I learned some very, very important lessons in the military, on how to execute, how to get things done timely, how to have structure, um, how to really execute in a manner, that makes sure you get from point A to point B the way you want to. And I've taken some of those things, but I've also, they've amalgamated in a way that, my education beyond that and my experience beyond that has told me that, collaboration and collaborative understandings and having more voices at the table is actually better, as well. But I also be like, okay, now it's time to execute, right? So, so I think I've my military experience has given me, bits and pieces of my leadership style now. And my experience in education has been an addendum to that, to help move me forward to where I am. And I'm a continuous work in progress, right? Like, it's not like I've arrived, I know how to do it all now. And so, it is
Still
really,
growing. The one thing, like you said earlier, about how it's a almost a dichotomy between the military and in higher education, because they're so diametrically opposed. Because in the military, we say we defend democracy, but we didn't participate in it. Saying, because you're right, as when you as a sergeant, you told your troops what to do. They didn't have a voice to say, "I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that." They had to go out and fulfill a mission. But and in higher education, like you said, it basically is participating more in a democratic type of environment. Now you have to get the buy-in in order to move forward in
right.
certain skills, certain things to happen. So I understand that. Okay, so tell me about the one of your favorite. You only had a few assignments, but your favorite assignment while you were in the service. What was your most favorite assignment?
So I think, the most transformative, space was when I was in, Shannon, Netherlands, and I became the DARE officer for the Department of Defense schools throughout Europe. In DARE, drug abuse resistance education, it was basically a educative program that, was attached to police officers going to schools, basically telling children, students not to do drugs. Um, I applied for the assignment and took it, but I did not know it was going to transform me. What I found is that, I started a cheerleading team at one school, a mentoring club at another school, a book club at another. It became where I felt most alive, in the classroom. And so I knew that education was a field that I should be in. And so and that's essentially what helped me make the decision not to stay in the military as well. Because I applied to a program at DePaul University here in Chicago. I wanted to get back home. And the program was to pay you like a $45,000 a year stipend and give you, a master's degree, while also allowing you to teach, in the K-9, K-8 space. And so, they only selected 12 people a year for it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for this again, riding on the faith that has, guided me. I'm gonna go for this, and if it is for me, I'm gonna get it, and I'm gonna get out the military. And if it's not, I'll continue. And so I got out, but that job in the military, it exposed me, to education in a way that I had not experienced before.
Did you ever think that coming from the south side of Chicago, and as you said, dealing with some challenges with housing and homelessness and maybe even hunger, that you would be back in Chicago, giving back to the Chicagoans and people worldwide? I mean, international students coming in at where you're at right now. Did you ever imagine that?
I did not. Um, but I've always known that the giver, uh, benefits more than those that are receiving. And I always, uh, have tried to position myself to be the one that gives. And so I didn't know in what way that would, be articulated in the future. but I always knew that I wanted to not be on the side of the table where I was receiving the food stamps, but on the side where I was giving them to folks to survive. And so that's why I feel truly blessed to be able to do the work I do, both professionally and kind of externally to my job. I have a community center / mass jail with my husband. We do service and hand out food twice a month. We give out clothing. We give out vouchers for people to pay their light bill that can't pay their light bill. We have trainings for folks to get jobs. And again, these are ways that other folks, I'm paying it forward because other
Understood.
folks are there to pay it to me.
Well, at the end of this interview, I'm going to ask you for your information, or you can email it to me so I can put it in the description in case people want to donate and contribute to the effort that you and your husband are doing there in the Chicago area. But I got some more questions for you. So, when you transitioned from the service, when you decided that you would leave to go into the program at DePaul, how was the transition process for you from the uniform back into civilian attire? How did that process? How was that for you?
um, it was, I think initially it was really a challenge because not only had I been in the military, my 4 years of that 5-year stint was at the same duty station, and that was overseas, right? So there's a cultural shock in a lot of ways because the Army and the Army base, that was family, right? That was my way of being. And so everybody talked the same language, everybody had the same experiences. And I mean, it was truly a looking out for each other. And so transitioning out of that space where it wasn't as close knit, I didn't have my people all around me that I work with and live with. That's a different environment. And there were also experiences that some folks could not even understand that I had experienced. So I'm when I'm in a new environment, excuse me, when I'm in a new environment, I generally try to sit back and watch and take in. And so I feel like at least the first year, I was doing a lot of sit back listening, taking in. I kind of jumped right in because I was part of that DePaul program, and it was a cohort of 11 other folks that I was there with from different walks of life. And so I think the smallness and intimacy of that group helped me in my transition. Because I could have many more one-on-one conversations. I learned that my language had changed. I'm about to get chow, like it's like,
Yes,
oh,
yes,
what you
understood.
get chow for? What are you talking about?
I did a video about are we indoctrinated? Say because that is a thing when you go through the service and you did 5 years. Imagine those then 10, 15, and 20 plus like myself, you become indoctrinated a little bit. And so you're right, it's having to learn how to civilian speak.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, what
Well,
happened?
but so even though I don't know if there was I forgot the name of the program now. It's been so long when you transition out, you go TAPS. There was a TAPS program called TAP. Did you go through a TAPS program where they teach you how to transition your resume, how to do certain things?
Oh, I think there was something. Man, see you digging me in the crates now. I
Yeah.
remember something. So I remember something around my DD 213 because I was out. Yeah, I remember something around that. But because I actually had to get out of the military 2 weeks early because they needed me to start the program then. And so I got a waiver to kind of get out 2 weeks early because else I would miss the opportunity. So I think some of those things were like fast tracked or I didn't get.
Oh, understood.
Yeah.
Understood. And so, but even though you said the first year was a little bit of a challenge, sitting back, relaxing, learning that you had to change your speech, not going to eat at the dining at a restaurant at a chow hall or go get chow. You had to different terminology that you were no longer the military MP anymore. Like, hold on, wait a minute. There was some challenges you faced initially coming back into the civilian sector. Yeah,
Yeah.
but all the training you're saying helped you to be able to adapt and maneuver in that space.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it wasn't overwhelming because I also had family, right? And my family, had my back. As I, they they had a lot of admiration that I had been living overseas. They was like, I don't know who you are now. You act
Mhm.
all militant. So like,
Understood.
you waking up and making your bed up? Why are you making your bed up? So
Mhm. Something that was ingrained into you.
yep, yep. It was those kinds of things that, were a norm, that had become a norm that then it was not normal in the civilian sector, right? And so
Good.
yeah.
So I got a couple more questions for you. Then I'm gonna let you get back to your family. Okay. Uh, one question is, okay, what advice, if you had advice, would you give to a service member who is considering leaving the service, or maybe had just left the service, and maybe having a little bit difficult time transitioning from what I call being indoctrinated to the service mentality back into the civilian sector? What advice would you give?
um, I would say find your tribe. If you don't have a family that you can lean in on for support and transition, find other service folks that that just got out or are about to get out. Have conversations with them, let them wrap their love around you, and know that the skill sets that you've earned in the military are ones that will be a benefit to you in civilian life, right? Oftentimes those trainings that we had to like stay awake for and those just the leadership skills and the execution, these are things that employers are looking for. So take the time you need to translate those skills into the language of civilian life, and know that you are well prepared to do just about anything that you want to do. It is it is a skill set that I am I am very, very happy that I had the privilege to gain so many of. So I would offer you words of encouragement, whether you decide to stay in or to leave. Um, know that either way you can be successful and you can be happy. And it just depends on how you want to navigate it. But either way, you can be that.
Understood. So I like that. Find your tribe, have a plan in place. That's good. So everybody, no matter if they decide to stay in for 4 years, 5 years, or 30 years, everybody's gonna leave. You know what I'm saying? That's the one thing you don't have no grandpas sticking around the military at 60, 65 years old.
That's right.
Everybody gonna leave. So everybody has to transition at some point in time. So I appreciate that. Last thing I want to ask you is, after the service, did you ever go through the VA process? Because for 5 years in the service, running on seamen, doing certain things, even going to the range. I don't know if you had any time in the field a lot, but any of those times, did you ever have to go through the VA process to say, you know what, hey, as I'm getting over and I'm getting in my 30s, maybe my 40s, up in, now my knees start to hurt more. Just on these things, I had to go through the sick call or go see the doctor for. Did you go through a VA process for any of your service connected issues?
No, no. I actually, when I first got out of the military and I was in school, I went to the VA Hines here in Chicago, I think for like just routine kind of checkup stuff to check things out. And soon after that, I was employed, and so I went through the regular insurance, but I was blessed not to have any service connected injuries that I had to deal with. But I will say one benefit that I did use, leaving from Illinois and when I started my term of service and returned to Illinois, I was able to capitalize on the Illinois Veterans Grant.
Mm,
And that's a 4-year tuition paid grant to any veteran that leaves Illinois and then returns to Illinois after service with honorable discharge. And that's at any level. So I was able to get my master's degree, get my 4-year degree while I was in the military,
right.
helping with my GI Bill, then my master's degree from DePaul on them in a scholarship, and then my PhD with the Illinois Veterans Grant. And so that's been a huge benefit to me and my family. So there's a lot of benefits that are out there for veterans. I also bought my home my first home and my second home. We moved on a VA home loan, right? Where I didn't have to worry about that huge down payment or the
Right.
PMI or and so there's a lot of different benefits that I've been able to capitalize on as a veteran.
Okay. Hey, well, Dr. Amin, I appreciate your time. I know you're really busy. I truly appreciate it. You took time out of your busy schedule away from your family to be able to share some of your wealth of your knowledge with what you went through, why you joined, and then you're exiting the service. So I truly appreciate you. Is there anything else you want to share before we say goodbye to our veteran audience?
Well, I want to thank my fellow veterans for your service. I want you to know that you are not alone. And you know, there's a lot of resources, a lot of help, a lot of benefits out there that just says thank you for your service. And I want to also thank you again, Clinton, for inviting me to your podcast and for doing this for the sake of veterans.
You're so welcome. Appreciate you. And what I'm going to do as I pause this, I just want to thank all the veterans who are going to listen to this in the future. Please like, share, comment, tell me your service, tell me if you had any issues with your transition. And also, I'm going to put in the description box a way of contacting Dr. Amin for her organization if you want to donate and contribute to the work she's doing in Chicago. I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to do that as a veteran. You know, we had I think it's AER, I think it was Army Emergency Relief Fund, where it's Army helping soldiers. So if you're a veteran and you want to help other veterans in their endeavor, what they're doing, we're going to make sure we give you the opportunity to do that. Once again, like I said, I thank you so much, and I'm going to make sure I get your information to put in the description box as we post this live. I'm going to send it. I'm going to send you the link before it goes. Go live everywhere in the world, but so that you'll have a copy of this. So thank you so much, Dr. Amin, and I truly appreciate all that you've done in the service and for what you're currently doing now in education. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.